And we are live. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm one of your co-hosts, Blake Ruffino. Alongside me is my counterpart and co-host, Joe DeLeone. Good evening on day one of the offseason. Joe, how are you?
Man, it is weird. I just tweeted this, and it didn't really hit me until I tweeted out hey, everybody hop on the show. And I literally wrote out, this is the last show of the 2025 season. This is the last conversation that we're going to have about what happened in the 2025 season. We're also not going to be live tomorrow for anybody who's wondering. We're closing the book, and we're going to be back on Sunday. It feels really freaking weird after everything that happened this year.
Yeah, it does. You know, we normally go Sunday, Monday, and Wednesdays. During this year, we went Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, which I thought really helped us. And we will be back doing Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays when college football kicks back off. But we do close the book on a really fun and productive 2025 season. I thought it was a really good season, a lot of ebbs and flows. Joe, we had the wildest coaching carousel that I think that we've had in some time. We will always look back at the 2025 season with Indiana, with the coaching carousels, with the coaching searches. It has been one hell of a season, that is for sure.
Yeah, I think that's the right way of putting it. It's been not only from the on-field perspective, but the amount of insane storylines that came out of this year. The coaching carousel is just the cusp of it. And transfer portal movement, which is not completely done, we're going to get to. All of that culminates with one of the most improbable national championship runs that we've ever seen and that we may see for a very long time. I don't know if anyone
might not ever see again
what just happened.
Well, we might not ever see that again. I mean, Indiana doesn't creep up on anybody now. Joe, they're a national champion.
Can I know we're gonna kind of talk about some more serious topics.
What random thought?
Wait, no. This isn't a random thought. I did a video on this earlier today that I haven't posted yet, but I did a video on this. There is one team that theoretically could be the next Indiana. Do you know what that one team is?
Who?
UCLA. UCLA has the 20th.
Oh, sweet.
Wait, listen. UCLA has the 20th richest alumni base in all of college football, of all the college football, or just in U.S. colleges, not of all college football. Yeah, just colleges in general. Their head coach, Bob Chesney, has a very similar progression track record. He was a really good coach at Salve Regina. He moved up to Assumption. He went from Assumption to Holy Cross, where he took Holy Cross to the FCS quarterfinal. He took over JMU, took them to the college football playoff. Now he's taking over at UCLA. If they put a little money behind him, I'm just saying there's a possibility they don't win a national championship, but they could just randomly become a good team in the next 2 years. If Nico stuck around for the next 2 years and he played to his potential and he progressed, I don't think it's an absolutely asinine thing to say that UCLA, with the recruiting hotbed region that it's in and the alumni that they potentially have that they could tap into, that they could be good. That's all I'm saying.
I will wax my chest.
Don't put that on yourself.
No, I will wax my chest. They're not making it to a playoff. Not in the first 3 years.
But wait, we would have said that about Indiana 2 years ago.
But I think there's something that people need to calm down on. Curt Cignetti is Curt Cignetti. Like the probability of somebody else doing something to what he just did is not probable.
I understand that, and this is part of why I'm not just saying like, oh, UCLA has to be it because they've got X, Y, and Z about their program. I do think that Chesney is similar to Curt Cignetti, but not a lot of people know about Chesney. It's the same thing with Cignetti. Not a lot of people knew about Cignetti. I have been tracking and following Chesney for a very long time because I've been covering him when he was at Holy Cross. I'm just saying, if there is somebody who randomly out of nowhere, everybody's talking about as the next big coach and he's doing great things, at the very least, maybe they're 9-3 next year or the year after. It would not shock me. Now, this is the fun part about us being on a 2026, Blake, is I can say crazy shit. I can say whatever I want, and I can say that it was just a fun hot take that I gave out in January.
I'm not going to let you forget that. Well, I guess we'll see. I guess everybody's going to be looking for the next Curt Cignetti. I just don't think it's that easy. I really, it's not that easy, and we'll see what they do. I'm sure that they'll have some success, but I'm not completely there with them yet. Nevertheless, we're live. Everyone do us a favor by hitting the like and share. Share to all those groups if you're on Facebook and to all those social media pages. You're watching us, listening to us on YouTube. Like, subscribe, notification bell, wherever you listen to podcasts, rate, review, and subscribe. Every Ruffino and Joe show is brought to you by our good friends and partners over at FanDuel. Download the FD Sportsbook app today. Yes, there's not a lot of college football you can bet on, at least not games, clearly until 2026. However, you still have the NFL playoffs, the NBA. Oh, by the way, college baseball is right around the corner. So download the FD Sportsbook app today. If you have any thoughts, questions, concerns, go to FanDuel.com/RG for more details. And Joe and I are very excited to be partnered with our good friends over at FanDuel. Joe, quickly, let's recap last night's game, but look at this in a different light. Now that Indiana sits on top of the college football world, Joe, where did they go from here? After last night and after last night's performance, we'll kind of recap what we talked about in the live show last night a little. But where does Indiana go moving forward with Curt Cignetti, and how does a program historically that doesn't have a lot of success, how do they do with the target vehemently on their backs?
First of all, I think that right now, if we look at we've paid close attention to the on-field product, and I don't know if everybody has been tracking what they've been doing in high school recruiting and what they were able to produce in the transfer portal this year. They have made significant strides. If you listen to a lot of the recruiting insiders, the national insiders, they talk about how suddenly Indiana is now in the mix for kids that they never would have been in the conversation for. Even after last year's season, when things were trending upward, they're now possibly able to get some of these Midwestern five-star kids. The Mark Cuban money is going to mean a lot, but I think that the on-field product is what is going to inspire a lot of these kids to want to come and be a part of this Hoosier program. Curt Cignetti does a really good job of evaluating and identifying it. I think that the future ahead for this Indiana team after reaching the pinnacle and winning a national championship is now they get to have a chance to bring in premier athletes. They no longer have to be described as the plucky team full of cast-off players that weren't highly recruited. There is now a higher capability for them to develop and have a much deeper pool of prospects. But here's the thing. We talked about this yesterday about how Indiana is going to, in a way, have to reset. And I went to look at their roster, and I looked through, and I don't think that there's as hard of a reset as we thought last night. Of the guys that they're clearly losing, they're losing Surratt, who's a senior. Fernando Mendoza is jumping to the NFL. Josh Hoover's not coming in, blindly thinking that he was going to sit behind Fernando Mendoza for another year. They also are losing Kamara and Fisher. But 4 of their offensive linemen are probably coming back because they're not seniors. Most of them are juniors or younger than that. A number of their defensive linemen, Landino is one of them, is a sophomore. They're not seniors. They're not top draft picks, so it doesn't make any sense for them to declare for the upcoming draft. They lose Black and Hemby, which is quite significant. Omar Cooper is a redshirt junior. Does he decide to return? We know Nick Marsh is coming in, and Charlie Becker is a sophomore, so he is going to be coming back. And then the last two kind of key pieces with this is, can you entice D'Angelo Pons, who's a junior in eligibility, and Amari Farrell, who's a junior in eligibility? Can you entice those guys? Or I think he might actually be a sophomore. Can you entice those guys?
No, he's a junior.
Can you entice those guys to come back? Does the cachet and now the financial backing that you have allow for you to do what the Ohio States and the Oregons across the sport have capably been able to do, which is bring back a lot of their key starters? I think that there's more of a chance for this team to possibly elevate. I know that sounds kind of like a crazy thing, and I'm not sitting here saying that they get better and they're going to go back and win another national championship. It's a guarantee. But if a lot of these players that I'm talking about return, this Indiana team, I think, is better than many people are recognizing.
You're probably replacing Carter Smith. You're probably replacing, well, you got to replace Coogan. You got to replace Mendoza, Nowakowski. You got to replace Hemby. You got to replace Black. You got to replace Surratt. That's a massive that's massive to overcome because a lot of those guys were there a season ago. Pat Coogan wasn't there, but you get what I'm saying. You got to replace Kamara. I mean, Lewis Moore had the big PBU. He's been in college, 7 years. So you got to replace Boykin. You talked about Pons. They have a lot that they got to replace. A lot. I mean, regardless of what you think of Fernando Mendoza, to replace him is still a massive deal. I mean, I don't know where you have Carter on your draft board, but I think that he'll be drafted relatively high. It's a lot to replace. And again, I guess the question is how do you doubt Curt Cignetti after everything that he's done, taking, like you said, a bunch of misfit toys and turning them into gold or turning them into Buzz Lightyear we're going with misfit toys as it would go. You're not the Woody in this anymore. You're the Buzz Lightyear. And so I agree that they have done a really good job already of resetting Indiana. Clearly, they won a national title. And it's going to come to pass where everyone's question going into the offseason is going to be, okay, well, you did it. Can Curt Cignetti do it again? Can he do it again? Can he do it again? He would be the only head coach on planet Earth to win a national title and not have those struggles, or national titles and not have those struggles. Because here's the truth. It's coming. Whether you want to hear it or not, when you got to replace that high level of production, it is very, very difficult to have to replace it. They do have some big pieces. They went out in the portal and got some big pieces. I love the Nick Marsh ad at wide receiver. You're bringing in a lot of good pieces to what your point is from the portal. So it might not be as detrimental as like what happened during the non-NIL era. But you have a target on your back, and it's going to be interesting to see how you respond from it. Can you replace an offensive line that went up against a really good defensive line in Miami last night? It's a lot that you have to replace. I mean, people forget Pat Coogan was the Rose Bowl MVP as a center. So when you replace a center, when you replace big-time offensive linemen, Kamara had the block for you last night. I mean, we've talked about that situation basically winning them as much as everybody wanted to talk about the non-production with Kamara. That basically won you the football game. I just look at this, Joe, and say, I hear you. The question will be is how does Curt Cignetti and this team respond? And right now, you can't really doubt how they do things because of how good they are. And here's the truth, too. You don't have a lot of replacements on the coaching staff. You did lose your strength and conditioning coordinator today to Tennessee. The highest paid strength and conditioning coordinator is going to Tennessee.
Yep.
And I think people forget how big of a deal that is, too. Like, I think the second biggest hire that none of us talk about is what you do in strength and conditioning. So how do they reset? How do they respond? How do they react to what's going to happen next year when people are coming after your offense and defensive coordinators? Because their names are going to be top of all of these boards here moving forward. How do you respond to all of that will be the ultimate question. Not saying you're not making the playoffs. Not saying that you're not going to have a good season. No one's saying that. How do you respond from that, Joe, is going to be the ultimate question moving forward because, again, replacing that offensive line, I think, is a bigger deal than what people are going to go into the season.
Wait, but here's the one thing that you're talking about replacing the offensive line. That I'm looking at their depth chart. Like, who are they necessary besides Coogan? You have
Carter.
He's a redshirt junior.
Yeah, and he's going to probably go in the first 2 rounds of the draft.
Okay, there's a possibility that he declares. He's not been somebody who's been brought up as an early draft pick from.
I mean, Kuiper's got him in the top 64. If he's got a second round grade, he's likely going to go.
I think it would behoove him to return to school, but if he does decide
the whooping he took last night, I don't disagree with you, but I mean
That's still 3 kids that could potentially be coming back that were starters for you this past year. So I don't think it's not like a complete total overhaul.
No,
And they
I'm not
also
saying
brought
that
in.
it's not.
I
At the
know.
same time, name a team that has significant changes. You're replacing a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback with a guy who had double-digit interceptions.
Yes, that's obviously going to be a challenge. And I have said this, I've been quite bullish on Josh Hoover. Josh Hoover was a kid for me coming into the season that I recognized as a potential riser in the 2026 class. He had a really good start to the year, and then he tapered off a little bit, just like Brendan Sorsby did. I think very similarly to Mendoza, not a lot of people may know how good Josh Hoover is, but once he starts to catch his rhythm next year, he could end up becoming one of the best. Actually, let me rephrase that. I believe he will end up becoming one of the best quarterbacks in the country because he's going to be playing in a system that's going to set him up to succeed. We have seen 2 straight quarterbacks that have stepped in and improved from the way that they played years prior. Curtis Rourke played at a high level with a damn missing ACL, and Fernando Mendoza went from being an interesting
at a high level. A high level?
Statistically, he was playing. I know that he wasn't playing. Look, we don't need to get into the semantics of the words that I used. He was playing a weak schedule. Statistically, he had a good year, and then he blew out his ACL. And he finished the season with no ACL. So that was significant for him to have done it. My point is that he goes from a kid at Ohio that was an afterthought to then becoming this, solid starter for Indiana on their first great season. And then you move on over to Mendoza. I think that Josh Hoover is going to be playing in a system that is going to set him up to succeed because they're going to be able to run the ball. They're going to be able to take a little bit off of his shoulders. I think that a lot of this comes down to, though, if a lot of the players, there were a number of guys that I brought up that are on the cusp of deciding to transfer or deciding to declare for the upcoming draft. If you can keep like 3/4 of those players that I mentioned,
they're not doing
Carter could potentially be in the mix there. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion anymore in college football to assume. Amari Washington decided to go back to Oregon despite having a likelihood that he would have been a top 15 pick this year. He would have been a very, very high draft pick, and he decided to go back to school. I think if the money talks, I think a lot of these guys are taking the security of one more year.
Well,
a lot
Curt
of these
Cignetti
players
came out this morning and said that they don't have the NIL like that, even though people keep saying that they do. So is he lying?
I'm not buying that. I'm not buying that. The
The
whole report with Cuban came out. That wasn't that long ago. We just gonna disregard. Maybe he's just trying to. It's like coach talk. He's trying to tamper expectations. I don't know. I don't know what he's doing. I have no idea what he's doing.
I think they clearly take a step back from a national championship.
Oh, obviously. I mean, that's a given. Winning a national championship and repeating is going to be hard.
So then again, if that happens, that means the players that left were the reason why you couldn't overcome and do it again. So you can't have your cake and eat it too, in the sense of if you lose Coogan, you lose Carter, you lose some of the Surratt, who's a big deal for you. You're going to have to replace it, and it's difficult to replace key pieces along a national championship winning team. Again, people are going to scream from Indiana that it's the NIL era, and I completely understand that. But you also had a 7th-year safety. You had multiple guys that are in their 5th and 6th seasons. I mean, that's a lot of experience to replace now.
It is going to be. There is experience that they're going to have to replace, and a number of those guys are at key positions, especially like a guy like Aiden Fisher is going to be tough to replace being a middle linebacker.
I'm sorry. You don't replace.
No, I don't disagree.
Replacing a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback, but with all due respect, is irreplaceable.
I don't disagree with that, and I don't think anyone's coming in here expecting that there's just going to be another immediate jump and launch into a national championship. What I'm saying is that I think that they are going to maintain their college football playoff status. I think that with the core of guys that they brought in and a number of guys potentially coming back, them getting to the Final Four again is accomplishable. And their upcoming schedule does appear to be quite winnable. The teams that they're going to be facing, Ohio State on October 17th, They get USC at home. They go to Michigan. And their last game of the season is at Washington. So you've got 3 hard games in there. If you split, probably more like 2 hard games. If you split Ohio State, Michigan, and you get one of those, I would think that you're probably going to
Indiana's got an easy schedule.
Oh, shut up. They play Howard week 2.
That's a joke. That is a complete
Everybody
joke.
plays FCS schools. What do we
Well, the SEC can't now. They got to go 9 conference games and then a Power 4 opponent.
True. That's true.
So no, you can't say that anymore. All right, Joe, to turn the page here on Miami. Miami obviously coming off of a devastating loss to Indiana last night. I know that I'm sure they're down in the dumps on this. There is a lot to replace there too. I don't think you replace a Mesidor and a Bain. Not the way that they were doing things. They are, it seems, to be in the catbird seat for Damon Wilson, the edge rusher out of Missouri. We'll see how they replace some of the things. Obviously, we'll talk about Darian Mensah here in just a moment. I don't know how you don't talk about Miami without Darian Mensah. We will try to, because that's a whole different conversation. But what does Miami do to rebound and, I guess, try to win the ACC and get back to the playoffs?
Well, so this was actually leading into my really biggest key takeaway from rewatching this game. I am not saying this in any way to completely disparage Carson Beck. I think that Carson Beck rebounded significantly from a tough 2024 season. And I think that his moment against Ole Miss is going to go down as something that Miami fans remember in the history of following their team. But I really felt like his limitations with his elbow, just generally as a passer, showed up in this game. Having a quarterback with half the arm strength that you need in Dawson's offense, I think really limited them. Man, I rewatched that interception that he had at the end of the game, and that was brutal. That thing died. That thing, it was the right choice. It was the right read. He did not have the juice in his arm to deliver. And it was something that we talked about where it almost felt like he didn't have the awareness to recognize how strong his arm was, where it was in this long recovery process with the UCL injury. It's like the whole year, he did not know what he was capable of. It just felt like he did not have that overall sense of, I can attack these areas. He was trying to attack an area that was just not in his bag. It was not in his arsenal. They need to get Darian Mensah bad. And the amount of money that they're throwing at him, the situation that is unfolding with Darian Mensah, which we're going to talk about a little bit later, I think proves that they want him really, really badly. But having a guy with the arm talent that Darian Mensah has would be transformative for this team. They are a team that's putting out a lot of guys in the NFL. Maui Noah, Bain are going to be top picks. There's no reason for them to come back to school. No, I believe Fletcher's supposed to be coming back. Malachi Toney is one of the most unreal players in college football and is going to be the key for your team's success over the next couple of years. But if they want to get back to this point and at least make another run to get to the Final Four of the college football playoff in 2026, Darian Mensah needs to be on this roster. I don't feel comfortable with the current quarterback room, especially with Emory Williams, who I believe just hopped in the transfer portal.
Yeah,
you need to get Darian Mensah because that's the key to unlocking that next stage.
Well, at this point, they don't have a choice.
Yeah,
because they don't have a quarterback to start in 2026. That also tells me that they're all in and they pretty much know it, and that this Mensah thing is kind of over. We'll talk about that in a minute. Joe, there's a couple of things. Number one, I think that them not being able to attack through the air effectively enough last night, going back and watching it, completely killed their run game in the first half. Because when Beck was able to start connecting in the second half, what happened? Fletcher scored 2 touchdowns, and they ran the ball highly effectively. Fletcher returning is a massive deal. Some of these offensive line pieces returning is a massive deal. Does Jackson Cantwell start at left or right tackle? Are you, even though it seems like Seton is trending towards LSU, are you able to put on the final marks here to land him? Joe, they got a lot that they have to replace. And here's another truth. As much as I love CJ Daniels, they got to get more explosive on the outside. They have to get some pressure off of Malachi Toney. They must. Whether you do that from the end line with a tight end, whether you do that with going and getting another wide receiver, you develop from within, I don't care how you do it. They're going to have to find a way to find another dude for Mensah to throw to. I don't think that that's a hot take at all, because you can't Toney had 10 catches last night. If you're going to be a team that and I know that's not technically Mario Cristobal's forte, you're going to have to find that second dude. When y'all locked down, I say y'all, Miami, when Miami locked down Surratt, and Surratt was a non-factor last night, where did they go? They couldn't connect with Cooper. They went to Becker. Last season, when Jeremiah Smith got double-teamed by Texas, where did they go? Cornell Tate and others. The season before that, I can keep going here. I can keep going as long as you want me to, because in every single one of these playoff games, when the number one receiver was taken out, somebody stepped up. And last night, until you were able to hit the seam route to your tight end, Toney had 6 catches with 20 minutes left to go in the game. 6. That's ridiculous. That is ridiculous. So I think, number one, I'm never really going to worry about Mario along the offensive line. I think they'll be okay there. Maybe not as great as they were, but I still think they'll be fine. And you're still going to have a physical running game. They're going to have to find somebody that can take pressure off of Toney, and they need to do it now. You bring up Mensah. Joe, I've already said my piece on him. I think he is going to be, if he does go to Miami, which is trending there, one of the top quarterbacks in the country. I mean, you don't teach 6,700 yards in the air and 50-plus touchdowns. That's not teachable. I do worry about him being in 3 systems in 3 years, but that's neither here nor there. I think he can overcome it. But I think it's defensively for me where I wonder where they go with this. You're trending for Damon Wilson, and you're replacing Mesidor, and you're replacing Bain. Now, you have Lightfoot. You likely think and believe that you can bring in Wilson. So if you do that, maybe you are replacing yourself at edge to some extent. But, Joe, when you replace that big of pieces at right tackle and both of your edges, it's always going to be difficult to replace. Can your quarterback position overcome that for you will be the question for me, and I think Mensah could.
It's kind of crazy to consider. I mean, with all the levels to this, like the drama that comes with all of this, that is the key to Miami's success.
Yeah,
is Darian Mensah. I find it a little bit odd that I feel like Miami has not done a very good job of recruiting high school quarterbacks. They're not
even trying.
I know, and which kind of comes full head here with this strategy of, hey, we're going to go and grab one of the best guys that are available, and we're just going to give them whatever amount of money that they're asking for. They've done that twice in a row now when they did it with Cam Ward and then they did it with Carson Beck.
Technically, I know Stetson Bennett was at Georgia, but got cut and then transferred back. So if you want to be technical, he got cut.
I'm confused. No, but I'm confused. What does this have to do with Miami, though?
Because 4 out of the last 5 national champions technically had a transfer quarterback that won them a natty.
Okay, I don't know.
No, I'm serious.
I don't know. Yeah, but I don't know. I wouldn't include that. But the Will Howard example
5 of the last 7. 5 of the last 7 technically are, because you still got to account Burrow in that factor too. I mean, then you go to a factor of the transfers really wasn't a thing. It's really been a thing for 7 years. So 5 of the 7 technically are technical transfers into your position.
But here's the thing, though. I think that we're slowly trending back towards homegrown kids being the keys to national championship runs.
I don't disagree with that.
Look at the crop of guys that are coming up that were underclassmen this past year in eligibility. Arch Manning, CJ Carr. I know that Julian Sayin technically transferred from Alabama, but he was there for 10 minutes. I would include Julian Sayin in there. I think that there's a lot of guys. Damon Williams is another player that we talk about as being a really talented player who's obviously sticking with Washington. I think that having homegrown quarterback talent is important, but there is a proven path to the one position that you can absolutely moneyball. And actually, it's not moneyball. That's not the right word. Commit to going with a portal player who's been around and who's seen plenty of bullets. It's quarterback. I don't like doing it at offensive line. I don't love doing it at defensive line. Quarterback is the one spot that you can get away with it. They, to a degree, failed this year. That we knew that they wanted Ty Simpson. We knew that publicly that they've wanted Sam Levitt. And here they are right now, this desperate, that they're trying to go out and get Darian Mensah. I have publicly stated here a million times over that I have no problem doing what they're doing. And we're going to talk about that in the next segment, so I'm not going to share those thoughts until we get to that next segment. But this whole thing, this whole pendulum swings based on what happens with Darian Mensah. I legitimately have no idea who they would turn to. Is Luke Nickel the kid who was a freshman this past year from Georgia? Like, is that kid special?
You don't let Emory Williams walk if you're not getting Mensah.
Maybe the kid was just pissed off that there were all these overtures to other kids.
Yeah, very well could be. Very, very well could. I mean, they treated him like dog shit, if we're just going to be blunt. I mean, that was a slap in his face. Yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, we can't talk about them without Mensah. We can't do it. So, I mean, if you're a Miami fan, I guess tune into the next segment because it's just where it sits. Speaking, I mean, Joe, because what are we going to do? You don't have a quarterback. You're replacing the best right tackle in all of football. You got some offensive linemen you got to replace. You're not explosive enough outside of Malachi Toney at wide receiver. You're replacing two of the best edge rushers in the country. You might want Land Damon Wilson. You got some secondary pieces you have to place. You got Scott you have to replace. You got some Terry defensive linemen and offensive linemen that you're replacing. It's more than just quarterback, though. I mean, Mensah can overcome a lot. I don't know if he's overcoming all of that shit. Man, that's a lot of shit to overcome.
It's a pretty big overhaul that they're going to be encountering with all the guys, the new faces that are going to be having to step up because you're losing two receivers in Keelan Marion and CJ Daniels as well. I would assume Fletcher comes back. I believe that.
Didn't he already say he was coming back?
Yeah, I believe he said that he was coming back. Who knows? Maybe if something changes his mind, but I believe he's coming back.
Yeah, getting suspended because you punched somebody.
Seriously. Mesidor, Bain, Blay, and Moton, your entire starting defensive line, and Basanth and Teray, your starting linebackers, are going to be gone. That is where this situation gets a little bit murky. Because you went all in on this upcoming year on bolstering a lot of these positions to make your defense a strength. And it absolutely was. It was why you were in this national championship game and you were in it late, is because of the big plays that they made up front across the board. So I need to see who's up next. Are they developing at such a high level, which has been talked about with Mario Cristobal along the lines of scrimmage, that the next wave of sophomores and freshmen coming up are going to make a leap? That is like the biggest question that I have, is I want to see who's next. And can those guys be high-level players that we maybe just don't know about?
Very well could happen here. All right, let's turn the page. Joe Duke is suing Darian Mensah. Obviously, everybody, I mean, we've talked about this, but I'm sure everybody that follows college football has seen this. But Duke came out today and said they're suing Darian Mensah for entering the transfer portal. Now, they allegedly – and they claim that they have a contract to his NIL rights and for the TV revenue money, basically a buyout here. But they announced today that they are suing him and also stating that he cannot leave. But the judge is making Duke enter him into the transfer portal because, from what I understand, through multiple reports here, and I quote, "Just because someone you believe is breaking a rule does not give you the right to break an NCAA rule yourself." So it would seem at the current moment that Darian Mensah per this situation, is going to have to enter him. I guess at this exact moment as we're speaking, he's not technically in, so we continue to monitor that. But in all of this, Joe, because there's a lot of hoops that I have to talk about here, your thoughts on Darian Mensah being sued, your thoughts on this whole situation in Miami being tied to Darian Mensah.
Yeah, this whole thing is a gigantic mess. The one layer to this that you didn't mention that I've found kind of hilarious is that the judge that was presiding over this originally was a basketball season ticket holder for Duke, and he had to recuse himself. So we're already off to a really hot start with this thing. It is
most people inside the state of where they do stuff. Like, for example, Trinidad Chambliss, the judge that's over his, guess where he went to law school?
Did he go to Ole Miss?
He went to Ole Miss.
How is that allowed?
Find a judge that didn't go to Ole Miss. And then are you going to go into a courtroom with a guy who graduated law from Mississippi State?
Well, I would argue that the other side of that would be both sides are biased. So it's a very, very fair point, and it's the complicated nature, and also why one might wonder why a lot of the courts tend to side with the schools in these situations. I think that with the Mensah circumstance, I don't know enough about the legal process to pretend that I understand that this might be the case of what's coming to fruition here. But I feel like we're trending towards probably some sort of a buyout. There was no buyout written into the contract. There was no buyout that was put in there. It seems as though Duke's whole wording with the lawsuit that they're producing against Darian Mensah is that this is irreparable harm that Darian Mensah is doing to the school by leaving. I know, which is ridiculous. It's their way of saying that they need damages. It's their way of saying that, hey, we need some sort of compensation for this. I wonder why this couldn't have just been some sort of a direct negotiation between Mensah and the school, and it couldn't have been cleared by that. Maybe they wanted to go through the legal process in order to set some sort of precedent, in order to uphold the contract language, and they'll go and settle it. And maybe they've already had those conversations. Who knows? There has not been a lot of clarity with this. Even though Hyder, the attorney who's overseeing this, is a very public figure also on X when it comes
law at Miami. Right.
Oh, is it Miami or Florida?
Yeah, Miami. He teaches NIL law at Miami.
Which is crazy, and he's very public, but I don't think that we're getting the full scope of things. He's done a good job of explaining this is why we're doing a lot of these things, and it's been good for us as media folks that don't have a legal background to understand it.
Lucas's case. He's already been through this before. He was also hired by Damon Williams.
I think that the Xavier Lucas case was not as aggressive as this one because I don't know if it was the same type of contract language. But from what I texted you when this whole thing started to pick up steam, from my understanding, what I heard was that there is an offer to pay the $4 million to Duke in order to let Darian Mensah enter the portal. I don't know if this is some sort of formality for this whole thing, but I feel like this is overblown for what's actually going to go down.
I mean, Duke would say it's not overblown for us because the transfer portal's closed and we don't have a quarterback. You know, I mean, so my question would be, if you're Duke, how do you judge Manny Diaz, first off? This isn't Manny Diaz's fault. So how do you judge and how does the college football world judge Manny Diaz next season? Here's the truth. Where is Jim Phillips? Where is Commissioner Jim Phillips? Joe, I get that there's probably not a lot that he can do. Guess what he can do? Guess what he can do? He can hit Miami with tampering. I know you don't want to bring this up. I know it's like, well, Blake, everybody's doing it. But somebody's got to set a precedent. You just went and plucked a kid from another school inside the conference at the quarterback position. At the quarterback position. And have you seen any public statements whatsoever by Jim Phillips? Any whatsoever? Because at some point, I get that this is going to go through court. And I'm sure he's going to say, well, we're going to let this be fought out in court. Let's see how everything happens. Where is Jim Phillips? Because this is apparent. This is blatant. In reference to Darian Mensah, I clearly don't blame him, even if he doesn't make one red penny from the University of Miami in his pocket. It's a better overall situation for him, even though I guess you can say, well, Blake, they technically won the ACC, but one team played for a national championship, the other did not. But I have a problem with everybody and every commissioner. The only thing that they do is say they're quiet when shit like this happens, but then they're not quiet when it comes to expanding the playoff. So I know that we should be talking more about Mensah here. What do you want me to discuss? That you tampered with multiple quarterbacks? That you were massively involved with Damon Williams, which on AYS, there's a full 20-minute segment of me saying 2.5 weeks before that even happened that you were tampering with him. Then he hires the attorney that teaches NIL law at Miami, and you want me to come off in here and say that if I heard it, that not everybody else knew about it? Sam Levitt. Joe, when did conversations with Sam Levitt start happening? When did they start happening? Because it seems as if when Sam Levitt was asked a question, he said the first person before he got in the portal that contacted him was guess who? Guess who? Was Miami. So how many more times are you going to allow that to happen? It's one thing to not when it doesn't happen inside your conference. Joe, they did it to a conference member. They blatantly did it to a conference member. And nobody from a national perspective is saying anything about it. Oh, they're suing. That's their article. Oh, they're suing. But yet if some other coach in college football would have done that, you would have bitch, moaned, and complained. And in reference to the suing part, I don't really know. I'm in a group chat with a lot of guys that are attorneys. They all were in there arguing today. I muted it because I didn't really want to read it, nor did I technically, after 3.5 hours, understand it all from what they were talking about. But this is how I gathered it. I'm not one, so I don't know. But I'm in a group chat with like 6 of them. They don't think that you can uphold damages for NIL because you haven't gained any. What?
Right. They haven't paid him. They haven't
paid him. And here's the thing. How can you seek damages on somebody's name, image, and likeness who's not representing you? So what I understand this is you can have a contract all day long, but the contract doesn't matter, a lot like the Xavier Lucas situation, when he's not there. When he's not, how can you claim that when he's not doing that for you? And here's another question. Why is Duke earning any form of money from the name, image, and likeness to start off with? How is that possible? Can you explain that to me? It's not a TV revenue share contract that you're going after. You said that you owned the rights to his NIL. Here's another thing. To every single player that's out there, there's 2 things, Joe, that next offseason is not going to happen. Let me tell you what they are. Number 1, players are going to wait to sign. Players are going to wait to sign to see how this thing starts playing out. And that's why the calendar needs to move back. Number 2, they're not going to give up their name, image, and likeness anymore. They're not going to do it. You know how I know? Because it's already happening here at the end of the portal. Oh, you want parts of my name, image, and likeness? You can't have it. You can 1099 me, but you're not going to own it. So I don't know how any of this is going to play out in court. I'm sure a North Carolina judge is going to rule in the favor of Duke, I would assume, and they're going to have to pay it. But at least they're getting a buyout. I mean, at least they're getting a buyout. Good for them on it. I hate it for them. Where did they turn at quarterback?
Well, they have $4 million to play with, so they could probably, when the spring portal opens up.
For who? There is no spring portal. There's only one portal period, remember? Did they
remove that for this year or the future?
No, it's this year. There's one portal period. Look it up. There's one portal.
You might be right.
I know I'm right. There's only one portal period.
Yeah, they're probably cooked in that regard. This is part of what we also talked about here with the DeMond Williams situation, is that you have this desire to uphold the player to the standards of an employee, but you don't want to give him employee status. You are treating him like an independent contractor, and you're expecting him to give up exclusivity. I might be wrong on this,
Yeah, it's
but
only
as somebody
one now.
who,
It's only
Okay.
one.
as somebody, Blake, who is an independent contractor with multiple outlets, the way that this works, I cannot be capably demanded to be exclusive with either one, because it would limit what I'd be able to make. Unless you are paying me as a full-time employee, it completely changes the circumstance with that being a possibility. The fact that they want these guys to be treated as employees and to hold them to that standard is what is making this whole thing incredibly, incredibly messy. It's why we need a collective bargaining agreement. It's why we need to have standardized contracts. I know that contracts are starting to become more and more standardized, but they need to be employment contracts. They can't be NIL contracts. The wording of it, I think, makes it incredibly murky. To get to your Jim Phillips comment, though, do we wonder that maybe the reason why nothing has been said by Jim Phillips is because it is during the national championship run? Does Jim Phillips speak up now that that run is over? Or is he completely, or his balls completely being clutched by Miami? Like, do they just have that much of a grip on him?
Are you really gonna cut the balls off of your cash cow in football for Duke?
That's my point. Do they have that much? Oh, you're saying on the opposite end of this.
Well, I'm just saying, what's more important? Am I gonna cut the legs out from under Miami, or does Duke not bring in a shitload of money from basketball? I mean, so now you're going to have to choose. I mean,
so this is my point, though, is I think he's going to probably be, I would expect he's suddenly going to be more public about this.
Oh, I don't think he says a word. If he says something, it's going to be fugazi. It's going to be a whole lot of bullshit. Yeah. Let me tell you what he's going to say. Mark this down on 120. We're going to let this play out in the court system. Watch. He's going to say it. He's going to say it.
God,
you let this happen inside your conference. I mean, what a flat joke. He is a joke. It is a joke. I mean, can we get any commissioner with any set of balls?
No, they're especially Jim Phillips. They're at the mercy of the schools, and Jim Phillips in the ACC, he is really, really at the mercy of the top brands that have threatened to leave. Duke hasn't threatened to leave. Miami could pick up and leave in a heartbeat, and the ACC would be decimated.
Well, that's probably what he's scared about. It's probably what he's scared about. But listen, at the end of the day, they're going to pay you a ridiculous amount of money. I mean, I just don't know what you'd say to Manny. What do you say to Manny Diaz right now? What do you say to Manny Diaz?
Pray.
I guess. And here's another thing, Joe. I had a NFL front office guy. We were talking about this exact thing today because I was asking his thoughts on it. He, in reference to Mensah, he goes, "I think he's a great player. He's hopped in the portal twice for more money."
I don't know what that totally says about his character. It's a fair point, and the NFL does typically pay attention to stuff like that.
They don't like that stuff. You're around those guys. Yeah. I mean, I'm around those. I mean, they don't like that at all. I mean, it's not like he can do anything if he got drafted somewhere. I mean, he's got to stay where he's got to stay. But I mean, it just comes down to I don't want to make this an LSU thing, Joe. They were a massive factor in the DeMond Williams situation. A massive factor. How many times are they going to do this? How many times? I mean, I know you don't like talking about tampering, but how are we going to continue to allow this to happen? This is blatant. This is blatant. I mean, I guess good on them for having to pay it out. I mean, good on them, I guess.
It's not so much that I don't like talking about tampering. My general problem is that I think it's a moot point discussing it because I think it's so prevalent. I think that plays into what you just brought up here.
It's fair.
Is that it happens so much that it is a massive issue, that it does really disrupt things. But I ultimately think that this is something that does save the sport, is that there is some sort of a buyout. I think that these contracts should include buyouts. I think if these schools were smart, they wouldn't enter into these stupid situations. They wouldn't play these stupid games. If the kid wants to leave, let the kid leave, but make sure you get money out of it. Make sure you get something out of it. I said this when we first reacted to it. There is an opportunity for Duke to get $4 million back. And then to have, they haven't paid him. They haven't paid Darian Mensah yet. So you effectively, unless my math's off here, you would have $8 million to work with in NIL this upcoming year, because you'd have the $4 million that you are getting from Miami, most likely for the whatever created buyout. And then you have the $4 million that you were supposed to pay to Darian Mensah that you did not pay to Darian Mensah.
Well, let me ask you this question.
$8 million that you can go and spend on a new quarterback, which I don't know how that's going to work. Somebody brought up, we'll get to Super Chats in a little bit. You could end up going and getting a grad transfer. I don't know what the hell that looks like, but does that NIL money turn into something that you could do towards building your high school recruiting up? I don't know what it is, but there's that $8 million could be completely transformative for the future of the program.
Let me ask you this question. Where's the College Sports Commission?
See, I have no idea if they're technically
we talked
responsible
about
for this.
Oh, they 1,000% are over this. They're going to have to approve his new contract at Miami. How are they not over it? Joe, I have one out for a baseball player at LSU that's been out for 62 days. I mean, what are we doing here? You're supposed to approve contracts based off of name, image, and likeness, correct?
Yeah.
So you allowed a school to own the rights of somebody's name, image, and likeness? And now that contract's getting bought out. Where are you? Joe, they announced, go read it for yourself because I did it today. They called themselves an enforcement on NIL. That's how they framed it. An enforcement part with Deloitte on NIL. Where's the College Sports Commission?
But I don't know if tampering was technically a part
They don't have
that.
But hold on. What's the evaluation? Because the evaluation isn't the money that Miami is paying him. The evaluation also has to come into, didn't you have to pay damages for that? Didn't you just go in a court system and have to pay $4 million to get him to leave? But yet you're going to approve another NIL deal?
I see that this is the murkiness of the CSC, is that there's really not a lot of clarity on its operation.
I really trust Deloitte to read.
No, I don't trust Deloitte to handle this properly. It comes into that there is really not a lot of clarity that comes from it. It's been one of the most unclear entities since it started. It has not done a good job of explaining things. It had to get that slap in the back of the head at the very beginning when they were shutting down everything, and it was a hold up in the whole circumstance that they had someone.
Anything. Did you see Dellinger's report? They're approving 98% of contracts.
Yeah, but that was after there was that step in where they were being too tight about it. And
welcome to Deloitte.
It's just a slapdick shit show operation.
Do you want to move to two teams that we're looking forward to, or do we punt that to Sunday?
Let's get to
officially kick off the off season on Sunday.
Let's do that on Sunday because we got a couple super chats.
All right, let's get to those. Shaquan with a $20 super chat says, scene number 24 on Miami taking a lot of heat. I mean, he's a freshman going against Becker and Surratt, who really no one could stop all year. It's one thing to see it on film. The back shoulders are harder to guard than you think. I haven't seen him taking – I fully trust what Shaquan's saying. What is he getting heat over, though?
I think that – well, I'm sure some Miami fans are probably frustrated. I hope that nobody's doing that. I'm hoping nobody's doing that.
They come after us all the time.
I think there's an understanding that he was a young kid, but some of the shows I was listening to Rosillo's show, and he had, God damn it, who did he have on? I'm forgetting who he had on, but they were talking about how it kind of sucks to say this, but there's truth in the fact that he was getting targeted a lot. They just said every single time we're going to take shots at him. It's tough sledding, man. And we talked about that in the preview. That was something that was going to happen, that he was going to, step up into a really, really tough battle, having to fill in for Xavier Lucas.
He almost had a pick six.
Mm-hmm.
Literally. I'm not going after a true freshman. The dude could literally pull his pants down and take a dump in the middle of the field, and I'm not going to blame him. He's 18.
Right.
Going up against a 20. Joe, think about this. When the kid was being born, Surratt was going in the first grade.
That's insane. That's absolutely insane.
Think about that. Think about that for a moment before you come at me with that shit. Lions with a $10 super chat says, thoughts on schools being compensated for percentage of NIL package offers to players for having developed a player, a concept used in European soccer leagues. I don't like it at all, because you're not developing his skills. You're developing his name, image, and likeness. He builds his name based off of his play.
Yeah, this is why there needs to be, again, it needs to be an employment contract. But this is something that I've been saying, is the buyout kind of acts as a transfer fee like they have in European soccer. And that's why I have I think buyouts are a healthy thing that happens in the sport that ends up creating opportunities for other schools. I think it would help Duke immensely. It's just a different way of calling it.
Yeah,
we're calling it something different.
Coaches have buyouts, but I mean, they're still technically employees, though. But see, here's the thing that nobody wants. You know why the real reason they don't want to make them employees? Because they'd have to give them health insurance,
which is stupid.
No, well, first off, I pay a premium every month for a family of 4. Do you know how much that would cost? Do you know how much that costs? It's not cheap.
No,
it's not cheap at all. So again, God forbid they hit Cobra, and I'm not talking about the snake. Do you even know what Cobra is?
Yes. I mean, I had to use Cobra when I moved jobs. So
gotcha. Stephen Young with a $5 super chat says Duke would have to find a grad transfer quarterback. They aren't bound by the portal window.
I don't know, but I just don't know who's like even out there. I have zero idea. Wait, can I on that thought though, Stephen?
This is a joke. I'm throwing $6 million at Stetson Bennett.
I don't think he's got eligibility,
but he's not Stetson Bennett. Not Stetson Bennett. God bless it. Georgia quarterback. I'm trying to make a joke and I missed.
Gunnar Stockton.
But
he's not he didn't enter the portal, so that's not going to work.
He's a grad transfer.
I guess. You right. That's the point, is you could hope that somebody graduates and that you could end up.
They're going to have to now tamper.
Yeah.
Is there somebody Go ahead.
I was going to say, what's kind of crazy, though, that we didn't even talk about? If Miami doesn't get Darian Mensah, what the hell are they going to do? We didn't really talk about this. It's very weird on FanDuel for anyone who's looked at the national championship odds for next year. Miami's at plus 2,000. They're actually pretty high up in next year's odds to win a national championship, which is kind of nuts that they don't have this figured out.
Well, no, that's going to climb. As soon as
if they get Mensah.
Yeah, that's going to climb. It's going to climb immensely. See what I did there? All right. Dad puns. All right. Well, look, I don't like it at all. Look, again, here's the truth. Joe, I have conversations with agents a lot. They are fucking sleaze bags. They don't read these contracts. That's why these kids are in the problems that they are. And you know what else nobody wants to talk about? Why are the schools doing this? Oh, it's to protect the school. No, it's not. You're trying to make money off of their name, image, and likeness just the same.
Yeah,
exactly. With that. All right. It's been a great season. We'll see y'all on Sunday. No show tomorrow. Y'all have a great night. Peace.